Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy again this beautiful Wednesday morning. Just waiting for that sunshine to come out. And I'm here with Hartwell again. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris.
Hey. So this morning, our topic is all about profiles in human design.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I think people don't delve into as much. Like we get focused on the different centers and gates and channels. I know for me, it took a while to even ask the question, like, what does that mean? Like, what does the profile mean? So
Yeah,
can you describe what the significance of the profile numbers are at the top?
for sure. Well, if you look at the top of those two columns, the personality column and the design column, you will see that the sun and the earth on both sides are in their respective gates. And we're looking at the chart of Gandhi as our example. So the sun is in gate 18, and then it says 0.6. That's the line number. And of course, the gates have line numbers throughout. So being as those are the two strongest and most powerful influences, those gate numbers are very important. So if you'll see on the right-hand side, gate 18, line 6, gate 17, line 6, and on the other side, on the top of the design column, 39.2, 38, line 2. So, sorry, I misspoke. It's not 0.2, it's line 2. 2 out of 6, because remember, the I Ching is one of the primary inputs to this system. So if you look up top, it says profile 6-2, and that's coming from the personality line, 18, line 6, and then if you look to the design column, the line 2. So that's where the profile comes from, Kris.
Okay. So how are they derived? Like what is the synthesis that arises from the form of the binary personality consciousness that you're talking about? So what is that? Like,
Yes.
how do they get that number?
Yeah, so to kind of review some of the things that we've already spoken about, which would be that, there's this primary binary that human design says that make us up, which is the design and the personality, the body and the mind, the unconscious and the conscious. So this is where, the profile arises from that. And of course, in the I Ching, there are 6. Each aspect of each hexagram of the I Ching is unique. And so hex means 6. So if you number it from the bottom up, the bottom line is line 1, the second line up is line 2, line 3, line 4, and the top line is line 6. So this is where the human design system links into the wisdom of the I Ching. And each one of those lines represents a different energy.
Okay. So is that when you talk about themes? So each line would have a different theme as well? So, and there's 6 basic themes?
That's correct, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about them and what they are?
Yeah, the first line is the line of the investigator. It's inherently insecure. It has a lot of fear, and it is driven out of that insecurity to investigate the fundamental principles of things. So, being as it's the bottom line, it makes sense. It's a foundation. Right. And if you think of a house metaphor, it's the foundation of the house.
Right.
Okay. Now, the second line is a line of, imagine you're looking at a house and somebody is having a dance party by themselves in their kitchen or in their living room, and you can see it from the street. That's the second line. It gets observed by others. There's a naturalness to it. There's a genius to it. There's a freedom to it.
Right.
The third line is like the transition between the lower floor and the upper floor. And so it is called the line of, so we got the second line, hermit. The first line was the investigator. And then the third line is the martyr, the trial and error line. This
Oh,
is
okay.
about this is about making mistakes in life. It's about learning from your mistakes, but it's always about bumping into things. It's always about there's always that sense of not knowing until you do know, until you
Um,
learn from experience.
Till you touch the stove, you don't know it's hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
third line has to touch that stove. It's not going to listen to its parents.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's uh, and the fourth line is the opportunist.
Hmm.
So the fourth line is it's kind of like now you've got a linkage. In my house metaphor, it's like, oh, where is that? I'm not sure. I'm having a blank moment. But the opportunist is about networking. It's about influence amongst your community, and it's called the opportunist line. So there's that taking advantage of your connections with people.
Right, because you can see all the opportunities. That's part of your gift, I guess. Right.
Yeah, you were drawn into that, naturally speaking. And the fifth line is kind of like somebody in the upper floor windows looking out, peeking out from behind the curtain.
Hmm.
And people from the street are looking up and saying, "What's going on up there? Something interesting's happening." And so the fifth line is about getting projected upon. It's
Okay.
called the heretic. People
Hmm.
look up there and they, oh, something's interesting going on. There's a
Yeah.
projection that is called forth on that.
Okay.
And the sixth line is the line of the role model.
Ah,
And it's kind of like coming up onto the roof is what
right.
it's called in human design.
Hmm.
And these are the people that go through sort of the sixth line goes through a three-part process. It starts out as a three,
Hmm.
making lots of making mistakes, trial and error, the martyr line. And then it has a period of grace, a period of quietness where it reflects and integrates. And
Hmm.
then at the end, 50 plus, it shows up in the world with a lot of wisdom, with the ability to be a role model, with the ability to model things for
Right.
people, and to see things from a wider perspective.
Hmm.
So this brings a lot more information to what we see. Even the line level of things is really where things get juicy and gets more specific.
So you start delving into it more, right?
Yeah.
You get more
So
information. Yeah.
the line level of your sun and earth form the profile, which in Gandhi's case is called the 6-2 profile, which is
Hmm.
the role model hermit.
Right.
So then you can combine those two, and this is like the costume or the role that you play within life.
Okay.
So you've got your over on you've got your over you've got your strategy and authority, and you've got your underlying purpose, which is the incarnation cross.
Hmm.
And this is the costume that you wear, and the profile. So it's very important.
Right. So there's how many different kinds of profiles are there?
There are 12 profiles, and each of them have their own flavor and their own sort of costume.
Right.
Um, I mean, just to give you an example, say if we look at Gandhi, which is
Hmm.
the role model hermit, this means that he wouldn't come into the full power of who he was until after 50, because that's when the sixth line really starts to shine as a potential role model for the world.
Right.
And the hermit line is saying that on an unconscious level, he really wants to stay in his cave. He still really wants to meditate.
Yeah.
You
So what
know,
if you're like a 3-5? So that would be like a martyr role model,
a 3-5 would
or
be
or a heretic. Sorry.
a martyr heretic, yes, which means that on the surface level, you go through life learning through mistakes.
Hmm.
Okay. But on the fifth level line, you are drawn into externalizing or universalizing what you know. So the 3-5 is often the people that say, the theater's on fire, let's get out. Here's the fire exits. The 3-5 often knows what to do in a crisis situation
Mm-hmm.
because over the course of their life, they've screwed up so much, but they have
That's funny.
the 3 is great because they're the kind of person, and you meet them and they say, you get the feeling that they've been through everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they've learned through everything. And you have this amazing feeling that this is a person who's really learned from experience.
Mm-hmm.
And they can tell you exactly what not to do, which is often as important as what to do.
Right.
Don't do that. I've tried that. It doesn't work.
And it doesn't work. It's not like you read it out of a book, so you're imparting that knowledge. It's like, no, I've done it. This was my experience. So, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get it. And so what would a 1-3 look like then, an investigator martyr?
Well, they are people who want to get to the bottom of things, and they're just they're a bit ferocious in the way they approach things. The investigator says, I'm insecure, I have to figure this out. And the 3 takes them into all sorts of conditions, where they are learning from that trial and error experience. So, they just become very capable all-around people who've learned a lot from experience and through their investigation. Because, in some ways, the 3 and the 1 go well together. Mm-hmm. The 1 has to investigate because they're insecure, and the 3 is always is drawn into all sorts of experience anyway. So it provides a good forum for that.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting when we look at all of these. I'm interested in asking you about all these different combinations. So, because it's so enlightening, because you don't it's not the normal part of the reading that you delve into, right? So, these are additional things that people come back and investigate after their initial reading, because a human design reading is a lot of information. So,
it is a lot. Yeah.
So, the purpose of these little short videos is actually to let them dip their toes in so they can kind of get a feel for it, so it's not so overwhelming when they first come in, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And there are, I'm a fairly long-term student of human design already, and there's still things that I'm learning and I'm still pursuing. I'm on my way to professional certification, and it's fun, and it's like, whoa, it just keeps opening up and opening up and opening up.
Well, it's like once you dig the hole, you don't know how far down the well goes, right? You just it's a whole well of information that you're diving into. Yeah.
Yes.
So go ahead.
One thing to point out here too is that, like a lot of things, we can, if you're in your not self energy, and if you're living a not self life, you're not necessarily going to feel the role model, feel the profile in a pure way. Mm-hmm. So our proper function in the world, our proper costume, so to speak, which we've been talking about with the profile, this is going to become more obvious the more, as you get older and as you learn to live as yourself. Mm-hmm. Because they are very distinct. Remember, human design is quite mechanical, right. And that can bother. I know it bothered me at the beginning, the sense that, oh, this is the way you are. Mm-hmm. It's not so.
Like you don't have control over anything. I'm designed this way, and that's the way I am, kind of thing.
Yes.
Right.
And to some people, that feels limiting. That feels restrictive. And yet, what could be more freeing than actually being ourselves is what human design says.
Well, not only that, but it's a way to understand yourself. So the things that I'm learning or that I have learned from exploring human design is, I'm doing that naturally, and that's okay for me to be doing it, and nobody should be shaming me for doing it because that's how I'm meant to be. I just need to find the right venue or the right way to deliver that in the
Yeah.
world. As
And nor should you be shaming yourself, which is what
yeah,
a lot of us do. We think that we should be something else other than what we are.
yeah, because we were talking actually about the incarnation crosses and how some of the names of them are quite like what's the word I want? It's like quite devastating sometimes when you look at it and you have this feeling of like I'm that. Oh, that's yucky, but it's really
Yes.
not, right? Yeah.
And I mean, the founder of human design, Ra Uru, there's a lot of, new concepts and new names that he came up with in the channeling of human design. And a lot of the language does initially impact us that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to get past that to the kind of the core experience, how it's actually lived out for us.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
like I was saying to everybody, this is just another piece of the puzzle that you can delve into. So, if you haven't explored this part of your chart and you want to know more about it, you can come in and have like a short session with Hartwell, not a long human design one, but just a short one to explore some of these different things that we're talking about, like the profiles and the gene keys and the Venus sequence and all these sorts of things that just get touched on in a first initial reading. So the deeper you go, the more you understand about yourself and the easier it is to live your self theme, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And and the talking about these things does help them does help them land deeper
yeah.
for most of us. Most of us operate that way. So
Right. So next week, join us on next Wednesday at 9 a.m. And I believe we're covering gene keys. Is that what we're into?
no, we already did that,
Oh.
Kris. It's going to be announced because
Oh,
we haven't come up with the next topics yet.
oh, my human design specialist is going to whip something up for next week for us. This is
Yes.
such a huge topic. I know that there's so many questions and things for us to delve into. And maybe even one of the things that we could delve into that just came to mind is the core wound. When we talk about that. So maybe that's something that we can talk about in the next session.
Sure. And
That's
maybe perhaps if there's anybody who has, anybody who's watching this, maybe they have some suggestions as well.
yeah, or things that they want to know about, and they can send us in some questions or whatever it is. That would be wonderful. So, yeah, join us next Wednesday, everybody. And for now, I'm going to say God bless and have a wonderful Wednesday. Love you guys. Bye.